all the participants on behalf of Institutions Innovation Council of Bengal Institute of Technology. Innovation Cell has been established by MHRD to conduct various innovation and entrepreneurship related activities in all higher educational institutions across the country. Today's session is on exposure and field visit for problem identification. And I would like to introduce our eminent speaker, Mr. Dhritiman Ghosh, who is currently working as technical lead at Intel IoT Group. He is an alumnus of IIT Kharagpur and IIM Ahmedabad and has more than 14 years of professional experience in various industries. He worked in different semiconductor companies like Qualcomm, SanDisk, and ST Microelectronics. He also worked as associate director in Dr. Reddy's lab. Mr. Ghosh was also founder of a hyperlocal e-commerce startup, Local Chat. He also published 3 international papers and acted as industry mentor to guide MTech project for students at IIT and NIT. We would like to thank Mr. Ghosh for giving his valuable time to us. Now I would like to request our principal, Sir Professor Dr. Inshik Ghosh, to say a few words before starting of the webinar. Dr. Ghosh is a civil engineering graduate with post-graduation in water resources engineering and PhD in civil engineering. Prior to joining BIT, he was scientist G and head groundwater division of National Institute of Hydrology, Roorkee, Government of India. He has many years of experience in R&D and higher education field. Sir, over to you.
So good evening to everybody. I heartily welcome Mr. Dhritiman Ghosh for agreeing to have a evening with us and to share his knowledge, particularly on exposure and field visit for problem identification. So I also thank our innovation cell for organizing such a good event with the expertise from Mr. Dhritiman Ghosh, who has got very good exposure from the IIT system as well as the IIM system. I consider he is the right person to talk about the exposure and field visit to identify the problem. Actually, in fact, when it is an R&D problem as well as the problem which are relevant to the field, to have the exposure and also the field visit to identify the problem. This is the primary requirement. So I heartily welcome Mr. Dhritiman Ghosh and also the team members of Institutions Innovation Cell for organizing that, and also all our listeners, particularly the students and also the faculties from BIT and all other institutions, to have Mr. Dhritiman Ghosh here and also to get his viewpoints on these particular issues. So once again, on behalf of BIT and on my own behalf, I welcome Mr. Dhritiman Ghosh for delivering his talk and also share his thoughts and also interact with the students. So with these words, I give the mic to Mrs. Moutan Mukherjee. So she will handle this particular activity. Moutan, over to you.
Thank you, sir, for your motivational speech. So now I would like to request all the participants to be on mute throughout the session. There will be question answer session at the end of the webinar. And I would like to also inform you that the participation certificate will be given to all the participants upon filling up of the feedback form. And the link of the feedback form will be given at the end of the webinar in the Zoom chat box, and also in the WhatsApp groups. Those who have not joined yet, requesting them to join our WhatsApp group for the feedback link. And today, in this rising economic times, startups are becoming a first business trend in India. But noticeably, among the many, few actually survived in the long run, to a fact that many startups came with solutions to the problem, which are not really a problem, and thus have gradually perished. Businesses like Uber, PayPal, Zomato, who rightly pictured the actual problem, are gaining business in the long run. So conclusively, a business solution necessarily needs identifying the problem correctly. So today's session is on exposure and field visit for problem identification. In today's session, Mr. Ghosh, based on his MNC and startup experience, will cover few best known practices that can be adopted during field visit while understanding pain point of the target customer. So without wasting much more time, I would like to welcome Mr. Dhritiman Ghosh to start today's session. Over to you, Mr. Dhritiman Ghosh.
Thank you, Mutan. I think that's a very generous introduction, and thank you, Mr. Ghosh, for inviting me for this talk, and thanks a lot, Sudipto, for coordinating with me from time to time. So without much further delay, I think let me start the talk. And the way I plan to do is, let's go over the flow first, and if the students have any query towards the end, I'll try to take as many questions as possible. And if some of the questions are not answered, feel free to reach me, and that I think Mutan and Sudipto you can coordinate. So with that, let me ask the most frequent question right now, what we do. Can you guys see my screen?
Not now.
No.
Just a minute, because this is the thing, I think after COVID, the maximum time we do. Okay. So hopefully my screen is visible now.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So as Mutan already correctly pointed out, identifying the right problem itself is a interesting thing. And as Mr. Ghosh already pointed out, and that I can directly correlate based on my engineering as well as management experience, like it has to be a combination of both when you are going for any field visit. So with that, and based on my startup and MNC experience, let me share a couple of BKMs or frameworks. But again, I will always encourage, don't take anything as a golden one. These are just guidelines. You are the best person to judge what is the best for you. So with that, a couple of disclaimer, the examples shared in the presentation are purely fictional. So that there is no conflict of interest anywhere. The views shared during the presentation are purely personal, does not represent any company's view. And finally, the images, some of the images I have taken from the internet for the better depiction. Okay, so just give me a minute. So in the last 14 years, there are a couple of products or a couple of services I have worked. Broadly, if you see, some of my time I spend in designing some of the technologies for pen drive at SanDisk, or some technologies at Qualcomm, or some specific technologies at Intel for their data center division, mostly the DDR. Or at back in 2014, we tried our luck with a hyperlocal startup called LocalChat. And surprisingly, that's the most popular thing now in 2020 due to the COVID. Then I spent some time in Dr. Reddy's lab. It's a pharmaceutical company as a product manager for their online learning management platform. Then a few years in strategizing their omni-channel engagement. And finally, I started investing last year in a tech platform that is called Learning 28 Days. So Learning 28 Days, you can always go to YouTube and find and subscribe. It's basically a platform where we are trying to collect videos from the industry experts who are interested to pursue their career in hardware industry. So though it's a bits and pieces of a different industry, like whether it is semiconductor, whether it is e-commerce, whether it is edtech, or whether it is pharmaceutical, there's one thing which is very common, and that is the rule number one when you start any activity in life. And why I am emphasizing on that, because all of the participants are students. So the rule number one is listen to all but decide by yourself. Because the first thing what I usually did a mistake in my life, or I see the people also do, is the moment a experienced guy, and especially let's say from a eminent institute, start and sharing some views, they think, okay, that's the golden word, we should start following that. That should not be the case. You are your own judge. So at the end of the day, all the information you will assimilate from everyone, whether you join a startup, whether you start your own startup, or whether you join a multinational company. But it's very important you take decision by yourself, because that's what is going to help you in the subsequent years, whatever you do, whether it is a MNC job or it's a startup. Now, in a high level, when we build a product, let me little bit set the context before we directly go to the problem solving, so that we get an idea of what we are talking about. In a very simplistic way, you always start with the objective. Essentially, if you don't start with the right objective, whatever you do, it is bound to fail. Whatever product or service you will make, eventually you'll see whether there is a no taker, that which essentially means there is no customer for it, or there is a customer for it, but he wants it for free. He is not willing to pay money for that. And then the next thing after we set our objective, what we do is called research, which is essentially nothing but a homework. So we'll go over all these modules in the subsequent slides. And after that only comes the field study. Because if you directly go to the field study aimlessly without having your right homework or right objective, you will get information, but you don't know how to assimilate and connect the dot and try to make it right business case out of it. Then the most interesting part, that's why probably most of the presentation today will go over, that's the customer journey. Because the main purpose of the field study is how you understand a customer's journey, his or her pain points, so that you identify what is the right solution you are planning to build for your own startup or the multinational company for which you're working. So after the pain point, definitely in today's presentation, we'll stop at pain point. But as you know, the flow, essentially to connect the flow, essentially we'll brainstorm the solutions, then you will do a minimum viable product, which you call MVP. After that, you will eventually go for the full-fledged product launch. And finally, we'll have some metrics, which we call key performance indicator, which essentially means you will measure, are you doing what you intended to do? Whether it is for your business objective, whether it is for your MVP, or whether after you launch the product. So this is a very simplified framework you guys can follow. And today we'll start with the objective and we'll stop at pain point, so that I think you guys get some idea what we deal in our day-to-day life in the industry. The first thing, as we know, before you jump in any problem, the first thing we should ask yourself, is it the right problem to solve, or is it worth researching? Because many the times what is happening is, we as an engineer, we have a bias. The classical difference between an engineer and a business guy is, the business guy always looks at the monetary aspect, and if you see the engineering guy, he looks at the innovation aspect. So the moment you plan to do any startup, or when you want to work in a multinational company and you try to excel, the first question you should ask yourself, anyone, whoever is thrown anything to you, is it the problem important to solve, or is it worth researching? Because if you do everything and later you find out that, okay, hey, that's not the right problem to solve, that's good, but probably you are wasting a lot of energy in the first place. So let's take a simple example. What do you mean by that? So as I told, the first thing starts with a simple business objective, and let's say you and your friend discussed and decided, hey, it's difficult for the blind or the visually impaired people to travel alone in absence of road direction. So that's a good, interesting problem to solve, and you decided, hey, let's build a voice assistant that will guide them to travel from location A to location B. This is a very, very artificial problem I have taken. But everything looks good on paper till this point. Okay, you want to solve a problem, you want to build a voice assistant, and today you know whether it is Siri or whether it is Alexa, everybody is going into the voice assistant. So everything looks very exciting. But the first and the foremost rule is, let's take a step back and ask what is our objective. Because if you start building things and eventually find out, first of all, there may be competition in the market, or there may be already customers who are not willing to take your solution, or we don't know how to make money out of this, or you figure it out that the unit economics is not making sense, then eventually whatever you do is bound to fail. So there are two ways even to look at this objective. One is the economic value, another is the social value. But what is very important for you is to have the clarity in thought that what you are trying to do. For example, you can tell, hey, no, I am a pure play business guy. Our voice assistant solution will reach, let's say, 100 million visually impaired people globally, but it will generate also X $1 million yearly profit. That means that's your end objective. Whenever you are at the entire activity, you do field study, everything, but after everything, you should have this clearly stated objective before you venture into the business plan, so that you, as well as your stakeholder, as well as your VC, everyone is clear what you're trying to do. Eventually you also are very clear, hey, you have to keep a very, very sharp focus that am I making profit or not. But there can be another aspect also. There is another person, he can think, hey man, money is not that important for me. I will build a voice assistant solution that will empower these 100 million blind or visually impaired people to work freely, and I am not going to charge anything for that. That's also equally important in today's world. So, but that's a social value. That essentially what you are doing from day zero, it's not going to make money, but it's going to create a large business. I'll tell the large social impact, not the business impact. But it's very important to have this clarity in thought, and that's what I also learned in my own life, and at times after making mistakes also. So the moment if you go to any CXO or CEO, if you are not able to, or even to a VC, if you are not able to clearly state what you want to achieve, that the subsequent slides or whatever effort you are going to put, that's of no use, if you ask me based on my experience. So the second rule, what I will suggest is, listen to the pain point. Don't jump into the solution. Now, here there is a very, very popular quote in the startup world. All of us know Henry Ford. So Henry Ford is the person who invented, who basically started the Ford Motors. So he has a very famous quote that if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said that they want faster horses. So what I am trying to depict here is, if you see in previous century, people are using the cart which are usually pulled by the horses. Now, if you go to a guy during that century and if you ask, hey, what do you want? He will tell you, can you give me a horse which will run 10 times faster? But is the solution really the horse which can run 10 times faster? The solution was actually a very different car. The point what I'm trying to emphasize is, when you go for any field visit, you should try to understand the need or the pain of the customer, not what solution he is talking. You can take that solution as one of your pointer, but your job is to understand what is his exact need is. In this case, if you clearly see, the need was to go move from point A to point B, but I cannot go by horse because horse are getting tired after particular after certain kilometers, and they cannot also run faster beyond certain kilometers. So now these are the three big games we must remember, or there may be other big games also, but these are the which I felt that the basic three big games you should remember before you go for any field study. Now, with that context in mind, the last bias we should remove, because this is a very, very dangerous bias, trust me, because I was trapped multiple times in my life just because all of us are unfortunately have a very, very engineering mindset. When you are going for a field visit, you are not an engineer anymore. That time, your job is to understand the problem statement and the pain point. What I mean by that is, this is a typical software engineer who is very, very enthusiastic to work on his laptop or on his monitor. And if you see the natural tendency today, if you have anything, hey, I have to do a app, I have to do a cloud, I have to do a responsive website, I have to put analytics, I will add machine learning. Those are good, but thus when you start your journey, you should not be so aggressive. The solution may be for your MVP, maybe WhatsApp or Google Form or even a voice call. So the point what I'm trying to emphasize here is, when you start your journey as a startup, don't complicate the problem. Try to look at as a non-engineer guy, because if you go a simple non-engineer person, he'll tell, hey, can you WhatsApp me? Can you give me a call? He will not be interested. Hey, if you develop one more app, one more website, lot of analytics, those are important. They will definitely come at much later stage. So these are the 4 generic GANs I will suggest to follow before we move to the field study. So now let's take a pause here for a minute. So now let's take a real life problem. So this is again a fictional problem I have created, and I will apply some of the framework so that it gives more clarity what we are talking. So this is a very, very classical Kirana store in tier 2 or tier 3 cities if you go. And let's imagine that you decided, hey, I want to develop a payment solution which will be used by these Kirana stores, which essentially means I will go to this Kirana store and I will pay online, which is other way of telling is, I want to use some proxy of Google Pay solution, which will be used by these tier 2 or tier 3 retailers. And assume for the time being that you have also chalked out what is the business objective, what you are going to achieve out of that. So assuming those things are already sorted out, how you are going to proceed for the field study. So that's the journey we are going to look for the next 15 minutes. The first thing which always will do is called research, as we already showed in the initial flow diagram. And typically research consists of customer and competition. So before you go for field study, if you don't do this bare minimum homework and if you directly go for field study, I have realized that you can go to a new customer and you can ask a question once, maybe at best twice. But if you go for the third time, he will feel irritated. That usually happens when you don't do your homework properly. So remember, at the end of the day, if you want to meet 100 customers or 50 customers, and if you plan, hey, I will visit them twice, thrice, that means you are wasting a lot of time also. So if you do your homework and then you go to the customer, maybe one visit is sufficient, and for a couple of customers, maybe one more visit. So that's why that homework is very important. And the second thing, we all know that we have to also study the competition. So what does it mean in this case? Let's see. So who is our customer in this case? So let's write some description. They are some shopkeeper, or they might be some helper who is helping the shopkeeper in a Kirana store. He has a very, very limited exposure to English. Now, why this is important? Because all of us are very, very fluent in English, but the solution what you are talking, the shopkeeper may not be that fluent in English. And he or she may be more comfortable in local language. And usually his mode of transaction today is notes and coins. And these are, I'm talking about very, very basic tier 2 or tier 3 Kirana stores. So they don't accept credit card. And some of the stores, if you are lucky, you'll see they are using basic smartphone. So these are some basic things. Before you go for any study, you can just list down by yourself, and this number or the number of points what I captured, It can be very lengthy or it can be very miniature, depending upon what is the problem statement you are targeting and what is the customer you are talking. The other interesting aspect is the competition. So what are the solutions today? Let's say the Paytm, Bheem and PhonePe, these are, I'm just taking 3 examples. So you should also spend time checking the existing solutions at home. You can also go to the app store. You can also read the review, what people are telling about those apps, what is good about that, what is bad about this. And you can go to the retailer app here because it's not the customer app, remember. And at the same time, you can also get some feedback from your friends and family. Now, why you are doing all this exercise? Again, there is an objective associated with this. Your end objective is you want to create a questionnaire where you will have 5 to 6 questions. And those 5 to 6 pinpointed questions you are going to ask your customer, in this case, the shopkeeper. For example, you can ask, hey, why they don't use existing solutions? Why they don't like Paytm? Let's say. You can ask that question. Or let's say we are using PhonePe. You can also ask, hey, why you are using PhonePe? What is good about that? And maybe you will find a lot of shopkeepers, they are not using none of the solution. So what's the problem they are facing in the current process? So the initial purpose of this research is to create eventually 5 to 6 questions, and don't make the questionnaire very lengthy also, because if you make it very lengthy, remember you are going to unknown person, because the purpose of the field visit is not you go to your friend. The purpose of the field visit is you are going and meeting maybe 100 or 50 customers, and in many of the cases they are not known to you. So if you ask them and they don't have honestly any incentive to spend time with you. And I have also faced in my own life when I went through this journey, and that is natural, pure natural. So there is nothing wrong from their perspective. So that try to make the questionnaires very limited, 5 to 6 and pinpointed. So that's the homework. Now once you have this bare minimum homework, then the most interesting journey starts. That is the field study. Now there is a popular jargon in the startup world that we usually call spend a day in the life of your customer. So what does it mean? It means 3 different things. The first is very simple. The right side is you as a student. Let's say the left side you went to a shopkeeper and you had those 5 to 6 questionnaire. You asked them and you got the answer. Now assume you did it for 100 shopkeepers and you came back home and you started building a solution. That's completely no. Because if you just do that, remember, whenever someone fills any form, then human has a tendency to be super cautious. Even today, whenever you fill any feedback form, just try to think for a minute. You think twice before giving any review. You think twice. People try to give little bit artificial feedback, and that is very natural. Even today, any feedback from whatever you get, it happens all the time. So if you just think that, okay, I'll trust this feedback form and based on that I'll start building my solution, you can build a solution, but probably that is a very, very risky value proposition you're trying to do. So what industry people do is the next 2 steps. Observing your customer. So what it essentially means, you have to spend a day at a shop sitting next to the shopkeeper, and you have to study what he is doing morning to evening, especially when the customer is coming and paying to him or her, how he is handling that situation. Now this may look a very, 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 very funny thing, but this is the crux of the thing. So let me give a specific example. So when I was working for the pharmaceutical company, my job was to understand the pain point of the medical representative when they are detailing our medicine to the doctors. Now I was assigned the market. That market was Russia. Now let's say, imagine I'm sitting in a corporate office. I gave some feedback from some people, filled it from Russia, and I started building the solution. Will the solution will be really make any sense? The solution will not make any sense. So what I did is I went to Russia. I visited almost 20, 25 to 30 doctors, every time with a different medical representative at Russia. And I understood how they are doing the e-detailing. once you go through that journey, then you understand what actually your end customer is facing. So that's what in the startup world we call is observing your customer. Now this is the most crucial phase in most of the cases. If you don't do it, probably you are building a product with your own imagination, and probably tomorrow you'll find there is no taker unless you build a search engine like Google. Now there is an ambitious step. Now this is some people do, and this is actually desirable. And I will also give a simple analogy why why it is desirable, but probably not all the time possible. Can you be the shopkeeper for a day? Now it looks very funny, maybe very ambitious things again. But just think, your brother is appearing for a joint entrance or IIT exam and you're observing, versus you are appearing for the exam. The pressure you will face when you are appearing for the exam by yourself is very different from your brother, because if you observe your brother and if you try to feel okay how much pressure he is taking. Now why this will be important, let's say you went to a popular kirana store and there are 5 or 6 customers are waiting. If one guy is telling, hey, give me this item, other guy is telling, hey, I'm waiting for the change, I have given you the money, you have not still paid me back. The third guy told, hey, I have already paid you online, but you have not still confirmed that whether you received the payment or not. So that guy, that fraction of 2-3 minutes, when 5 people surrounded asking 5 different things, and you are observing versus you are managing the 5 people as a shopkeeper, is a very different thing. So that's usually, if you see a lot of product manager today in the multinational or the startup company, they try to behave like a customer so that you really go through the journey to understand what is going wrong or what exactly is the pain point. Because if you are able to experience this part of the journey, you will fairly able to understand what are the pain points. So with that, let's assume you have gone through these 3 different steps. What you are going to do after that? So you are going to build something called persona building. So what persona building means? So definitely you observe the shopkeeper, and I'm pretty sure it's not possible all the time to be a shopkeeper. So you did a mix and match of both. And based on that, let's say these are 4 different shopkeepers. You started building your observation. So the first observation for the first shopkeeper, maybe the shopkeeper was tech savvy. He uses payment app. The customer waits till the shopkeeper confirms payment. That means there is a waiting time associated for the customer, even though the customer paid online. And he uses smartphone for bill calculation. Means after he handed over all the items to the customer, he also has to compute what is the total bill. For the shopkeeper too, the observation may be very different. He or she may be using a very basic phone and usually delivers door to door. And typically, if you see the tier 2 shopkeepers, they usually maintain we call khata, which is on credit system. Means a family or a customer at the beginning of the month, he or she will pay the shopkeeper, and for the rest of the month, the shopkeeper will deliver, and the amount he will maintain in a notebook, which usually we call khata. So in a nutshell, it gives us some insight. The shopkeepers and the customers, they are maintaining some credit system. The third shopkeeper, when you did the persona analysis, you found something very interesting. You found out that the cash payment used by the customer, shopkeeper is using it to pay the supplier. Because at the end of the day, what happens is in this tier 2, tier 3 kirana stores, you will see in the early morning, some distributor will come and they will handed over items to the shopkeeper, and the shopkeeper has to pay to the supplier or the distributor. Now, why this point will be very important, that will be clear in a minute. And you see that he's computing the bill twice. That means every time even if you have seen, I have seen a tendency, whenever a shopkeeper he gives you item, he will compute twice. That means there is also a waiting time associated with that. And definitely you found out that shopkeeper is not well versed with English. And from the fourth shopkeeper, again we found out, hey, that shopkeeper also maintains a khata system and he uses calculator. it's not smartphone, it's not basic phone. He just uses a calculator for the bill computation. Now, why this persona building is very important? These are basically some stories you are getting, what we call is user stories. So you are getting from your customer some of the stories, and remember, these are not like what customer is telling all the time. This is these stories you are building, observing the customer from your field visit. So this is called the personalized identification. And after that comes to the final stage. What you do is we call the customer journey mapping. So what does it mean is you have to assimilate now all information to one place. So what you do, you start step by step. This is called a customer journey mapping. So what it does, for in your case, remember the customer means I am referring to shopkeeper, not the customer. So the customer asks for items at the shop. Now that can be at shop, that can be over phone call, or that can be WhatsApp. Then the shopkeeper notes down the item on the paper, the shopkeeper packs the item, the shopkeeper computes the bill, blah, blah, blah. And one interesting thing you can see is many times the bill when he is writing, based on my experience outside Bengal, even in Bengal, I have seen also, they write not the English number, they write local number. Like they will write in Bengali or in Karnataka, they will write in, instead of, they will not write 10, they will write the same thing in Kannada. That means they don't know the English that properly. Then shopkeeper computes twice. Then, as we already told, there can be two options. The shopkeeper directly hands over the bill, or he maintains a khata system. Then customer pays by cash. After that, retailer counts every, if you see, I'm writing every minute details. I'm even writing retailer counts notes, that minute details, or confirm payment online. Then the retailer moves to the next customer, and finally the retailer, the money what he got, he pays back the supplier. And if there is any balance left at the month end, he or she choose to deposit in the bank. So every minute detail, if you see from those persona building from different shopkeepers, we have written. Now, why we have done this? There must be a purpose of this. From here, now you have to use your brain to identify what could be the possible pain point. So one pain point could be, you can see, is returning the cash, because getting right denomination itself is a pain. And many a times you will see there is a one customer, just because the shopkeeper is struggling to return the money to that customer, the another customer, he or she may choose to go to another shop. So that is one pain point there. Another pain point for the shopkeeper may be maintaining the khata system and reminding the customer for payment, because at the end of the month, shopkeeper has to remind the customer, hey, this is the amount you have to owe me. Can you come or can you pay it online? And the third thing is the shopkeeper has to keep the cash. Now, keeping cash at shop itself is a risk for theft, as well as whenever he gets only one day. Today, or if you see all the shopkeepers, they usually, in Bengal at least, South India, I see they are mostly open around the week, but in Bengal, probably in one day the shop is closed. And that day, instead of again relaxing, he or she may need to visit the bank. So these are some of the pain points coming from this analysis. Now, why these are important? Because now whenever you have to think of a solution, you have to now think, hey, what is the most crucial pain point you are going to solve, so that the customer is going to adopt your solution and he or she will not go and he will adopt a different payment solution, because that is your competitive differentiation lies. And more importantly, you have to also now start thinking, hey, it's good, I'm solving this problem, but is the customer willing to pay me for this? In this case, the shopkeeper, whether he or she is willing to pay you for that. So if you see by the way, remember you also got a Google form, because where means it could be a printout form also, the 5 to 6 questionnaire from the shopkeepers, and you observed, and from that persona building, you created this customer journey map. So what is the summary coming from there? So let's see. Again, these are purely fictional. So the summary may be coming out, 80% of the customers visiting the shop use a smartphone. What means? That means at least there's a customer has no problem. They can pay by online. But the problem may be only 35% of the shopkeepers have smartphone. Others have only basic phone. That means Your payment solution should not assume that, okay, every shopkeeper is having a smartphone, then your adoption rate is going low. Then, as we already discussed, two critical things what is coming from this is returning cash change is a problem for both shopkeeper and customer, and credit system is very popular. But there is one more interesting insight that is also coming. Online payment can help customer definitely to solve this denomination problem what we just now discussed, returning the cash change. But shopkeeper may face problem to pay the supplier if the supplier does not accept the online payment. So imagine a situation, you created a solution, customer is ready to adopt, he is paying the shopkeeper online. But the moment supplier comes to the shopkeeper, shopkeeper is telling, hey, I don't have cash, I can only pay you online. And supplier is telling, hey, I don't use online, you have to pay me by cash. Then in spite of having every merit, whatever you did, shopkeeper is not going to take your solution, because at the end of the day, he will not take a pain just because you gave me on a solution online. I will go one day bank, I will take the cash out, and again I will give that cash to the supplier. That's the additional pain you are adding to the shopkeeper. So the trust, what I'm trying to tell from this small example is, this kind of critical insight is coming just from the field visit. When you sit at home at AC, you plan, you think everything is technologically possible. But when you go to the field visit, what you see, the outcome is coming very different. So what the summary from here, it is coming from this simple example. For online payment to succeed, the entire payment chain starting from customer to shopkeeper to supplier needs to be online. If you just solve it for customers to shopkeeper, your adoption rate will be very, very low, because the supplier will tell, hey, you have to pay me by cash. So that means when you think of a solution, you have to think very holistically. Am I solving the entire chain so that everybody is willing to adopt my solution? So in a nutshell, you started with this cool app and shopkeeper, and eventually now it became a problem where you have three party. You have customer, you have supplier, you have retailer, and definitely you have your cool technology in the middle. So that's I intended to cover in this limited time. So I think we are almost 6:50. So there is one more item I'll just quickly give a pointer. So what we discussed as a recap, you start with objective, that is either economic or social value. Then you do a research, which essentially means you understand some homework you do about your customer, about your competitor, you create some form. Then you do 3 step, you get some feedback from the customer, you try to spend a day observing the customer, or you try to be the customer, in this case shopkeeper. Then you build a persona, then you create a map out of this persona building, that is called the customer journey. You identify the pain point, you summarize, and finally you get a big picture, and then you try to see how you can solve it so that everybody has an incentive. Supplier also has an incentive, the retailer also has incentive, the customer also has its incentive, and at the end of the day you are also making money if the economic value is your end objective. So with that, I will stop this presentation for today. My last note is, don't generalize. Means what I just shared for this payment solution does not think it will go and directly fit for the edtech, or it will directly fit for some other solutions. So, but what will always work is, at least if you do the field visit this using this framework, you do the research right, and finally you do the personal building, and you map the customer journey, and finally you try to get the insight, and from that insight you try to build the right business case and the competitive differentiation. That's the then you have a solid business case, and then you don't need to look for the VC, because remember, at the end of the day, it is VC who is also looking for the right startup so that his money gets multiplied. With that, I'll stop here for today, and if students have any question, I'll take it. Over to you, Muthan.
Thank you once again, Mr. Ghosh, for your speech, which is very much inspiring and enriching. You explained the topic very elaborately with the case study. And I think after this session, it is very much clear to the participants that problem identification is very necessary before planning to build a solution. So you need to understand the pain point of the customer. So don't jump to the solution at the very beginning. So first you need to verify the problem and then find out whether the problem is important or worth researching or not. So research or field study is necessary before planning to build a startup. So now session is open for question answer. So you can ask questions through chat box, or you can ask question directly. Any questions?
So if there is no question, it means two things: either everything is clear or everything is confusing. How should I take it?
Yeah, Titiman, there is one question one student sent me. So question is, first of all, very generic question that actually you already said that to identify the problem in the e-commerce. So there is a question from Arun Kumar. Already, I think if you, yeah, there is a question for startup, how to raise fund. This is a question from, what is his name? He write onto the chat. Actually, he not write his name. Is
Okay,
from
I
his
can see
phone.
actually.
Durga has asked questions that how to raise funds.
Okay, so look, I'll give a generic answer because why I'll give a generic answer because there is no right and wrong answer, as I told. First of all, when we are building a startup, the first thing we should not think we have to raise fund, okay? Because your focus should make your unit economics right to make it bootstrapped or profitable. So what essentially it means, your customer is willing to pay you from day zero. So if you first of all starting a startup thinking I have to raise fund, don't do that way. Now coming back to the question, when you are thinking that how to raise fund, there you will see there are plenty of angel houses. You can go to their website. You can also see Microsoft Accelerator or Google Launchpad. They are basically every, I think yearly twice, they also shortlist startup based on the business ideas. You can pitch there, and they will, if there is a value in your startup, they themselves will help you to get the fund. But all I'm trying to suggest is when you start your startup, thinking about raising funds should be the last thing. Because always remember there are two ways you can build a product. One we usually call is the demand side, another is the supply side. What it essentially means is you build a product like Google so that you know anyway whatever you build, people will come and take that product. The other way is you first find out, is there a customer who is going to take your product? So usually today most of the, unless you build like Uber or Google, in most of the cases if you see, we are first building a product, then you are going to customer, and then you are thinking, hey, we need fund because we are not able to survive. So don't go to that trap. So always try to first understand why you need fund and can you really go without fund. If you have that clarity and then you tell, no, I need fund because I have to do marketing, I have to do blah blah blah, and at the end of the 2 year or 3 year I am going to break even, and then probably you will be in a much better shape and your pitch will be much fine-tuned when you go for this Microsoft Accelerator or Google Launchpad or to any angel investor house. So in a nutshell, can check those companies' website, or you can check the angel investor websites or the seed fund investor. There are a lot of you will find on internet, and you can drop a note with your idea. And I have seen they are very very open in responding usually if your startup has a mentor.
Okay, Dhitiman, Shondipan.
There is another question
Another question is there.
Okay.
in chat box.
I have
Yes,
also one
think
question. That's right. Okay.
Okay,
Dhitiman
okay.
also can see this question. Dhitiman,
Okay,
just check your
so
chat box.
in startup, how to famous your product when other brands are more famous than your product? Okay, this is a tricky question. There is no right and wrong answer. So what you are asking is, I will tell. It's not a directly startup question. It's slightly marketing related question. And remember, day zero, you have two ways you can make your product famous. One, your customer speaks for you, or you speak for you. So what in marketing term it is called push and pull. What push means, you are giving lot of basically advertisement, and essentially looking at your advertisement, student or the customers, they are basically experiencing your product. The other means pull, means you got 10 customers, out of that 8 were so happy they started endorsing you on social media, because nowadays the good thing is the social media has lot of power. And with that data, if you can go to digital influencer and you can tell, hey, I build a good product, look, these are not fake reviews, these are genuine customers and they're appreciating, can you do a review for me? So that's another way, that is called pull method, and that's slightly organic. But at the end of the day, what I have realized, that at the end of the day, you can be have a instantaneous, you can be famous, but your start, if your product is not good and if your customer is not endorsing for their product, your famous will be very, very short lived. And that's why you see that back in 2017 there are so many startups, but right now the number of startups that shrunk to a very, very miniature number. Okay, there are some other questions. I think it is better to skip. So I think Sandeepan, you are asking something.
There are also some questions are in chat box.
Okay, in a
So
startup, do we need to generalize the problem by relating them to all kind of category? Okay, excellent question. Excellent question. So I'll tell that I learned from my mistakes.
the
For
question
start,
from
like
Vinayak Kumar.
Vinay Kumar,
Vinayak
excellent
Kumar.
question. So I have learned from my mistakes only. The simple rule for startup is usually you fine tune your target audience rather than you try to attack all the target audience. You try to fine tune and you try to target a very, very specific customer, and you try to monopolize that. Means every customer who has that kind of attribute, they are able, they are willing to take your solution then, and they are willing to pay for you. Then only you should diversify. So what you asked, Vinay, the answer is in your question itself. We should be very, very focused in targeting the specific category, and we should be famous in that category before we try to diversify and try to broaden our, whether it's the customer base or the product base.
Okay. So my question is actually this is I think this is a very simple type of question. This is striking my head, striking me. That's why I'm asking the question. That you mentioned that when at the time of field visit, there are three type of field visit. One is you just stay beside the shopkeeper. In your example, I am just taking the example shopkeeper, and say day and night what the shopkeeper is doing. Okay, by that you can get the experience and get the experience how they, what is the pain point, what are the things that they are doing. So that could be useful for targeting the solution, what type of solution they need. And another example, another type is you mentioned that will be better if you can be play the role of a shopkeeper for a day or for a 1 or 2 days. That will be better for identifying the problem what a shopkeeper is facing day or night. But my question is at that point, if when I am trying to play the role of a shopkeeper, at that time I am trying to manage the problem how in my own way. In my own way, I am trying to solve the problem, trying to manage the customer, everything that is in my own way. But that may be different than what the shopkeeper is doing in their life, basically,
True.
in their
Excellent.
life.
Excellent.
So in that case, the solution what I am thinking about, that may be may not be the solution for the shopkeeper, because you can understand the problem
Yeah, I
question,
got
right?
you. Let me answer. I think you gave actually the answer in your question. So let me paraphrase it. Probably it will be. So look, as I told at the very beginning, look, uh, the solution first of all, as you pointed very correctly, when you are trying to play the role of a shopkeeper, what you are doing is two things. One is you are experiencing the customer. Okay,
Yes.
so the customer experience, what the shopkeeper is getting, you are getting exactly same. But the way you are handling the request is different from the way shopkeeper is handling.
Yes.
Now, that's where the answer lies. Why I'm telling is, as I told you, since you have your own mindset, you have your own way of looking at things, you may find out, hey, the solution is not a very complicated payment solution. Okay, the solution may be a very, very simple solution. If the shopkeeper does it in this streamlined way, things can be eventually done better. So the point what I'm trying to tell is, in the process when you are behaving as a shopkeeper, you are getting the experience of the customer, but in the process you are also trying to bring some efficiency what shopkeeper can also adopt. And in the process you will realize that, hey, for that it's not necessarily that I need a very, very complicated app to develop that. I'll give a very simple example. If you see what PhonePe has done, PhonePe has eventually introduced a calculator, because they have realized the shopkeeper, the most crucial task what they do is they calculate the final amount, and their payment solution is embedded in that simple calculator. Okay. So I think for the interest of the students, you can go and search PhonePe introduced a calculator which acts as a point of sales device itself. So a simple calculator is also solving the dual purpose, and it does not require any fancy innovation here. So that's the point. But I agree with you. Definitely, there is no right and wrong answer. So only thing is, one side you are going to experience the customer, other way you are going to see. In the process, you will discover maybe I don't need a complicated solution. This is a process efficiency. So coming back to solution, I didn't cover it today. There are three ways. Remember, the solution comes. One is the people, one is the product, one is the your process. The solution does not necessarily mean product. It can be even the people, means you can upskill the people, or you can do the process in a different way. Either way, the solution will come. So that kind of insight you will get when you start behaving as a shopkeeper.
Okay, thank you, thank you. I think another question is there from Jyotin Madan. Sir, how to make people join us in startup, or how to build a team and lead them?
So how to make people join us in startup? So how should I infer? You want people to join the startup, or you want to join the startup?
Yes, you need to clear it.
Join us. You want to join a startup? Should I infer that way?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
You want to build
So
a startup with some
now
people.
that is a
Make a group.
tricky. Okay. Oh, people should
People
join my
should join
startup.
my
Oh,
startup.
excellent, excellent. Yeah. So Madan, I will suggest you will face a lot of struggle, because I'll tell based on my experience. Because first of all, a person who is very, very well paid, unless he is your close friend, he is not going to join your startup. That's the first basic problem today, and that problem will always exist. There is no right and wrong answer for that. The only thing you can do today is probably you can start with your friend circle, because that's the, assuming you don't have fund. I'm talking that scenario only. If you got an angel investor, probably you will get people to join your startup because you are able to pay them. Assuming you're not able to pay them, you are trying to build a minimum prototype, your best bet is your friends only. And sometimes the LinkedIn also helps if you give a post, or if you're part of any group. Let's say there is a software nowadays, I see the students create a lot of club, so you may be lucky to get some people. But when it comes to the experienced people, if you are a student, I will suggest you ask them to be your advisor, because day zero they may not be that convinced, and over a period of time when they start seeing the merit, maybe they can also work part-time, and once they see a full merit they can join full-time. Probably that's a path you can adopt, depending upon how much fund you have.
Yes, I think Madan has got his answer. Okay.
Okay, I think Mutan, you go to the next.
Yes, yes.
There is a question.
Thank you once again.
Once again, 1 minute. There is a question. So we will take this as a last question.
Another question.
Yeah, Dhitiman, you just go to the question in a chat box.
Okay, when you want to hire for your company startup, whether we need to look for people who can do multitasking or normal people who have to pay more for the one. Yes. Okay, I think Vinay is really asking some interesting and right questions. So, okay, so for startup, first of all, you need a mix, because remember, in startup there is no fixed role. If a person who is a coder and he tell, hey, I'll only write code, I'll not test it, I'll not go for field visit, it's not the right person. First of all, in your startup, the person should be able to at least open to multitasking, first of all. Now whether that is necessary or not, that's a secondary thing, but at least the person should be willing to take if that is the need of the hour. Now the second thing is, you need definitely some people who are super good coder, because time to market is more. Because at the end of the day, time to market is very important in startup world, as you already looks like, since you are asking all the right question. If you fail, you have to fail fast. Means if you experiment something, you experiment quickly. If that didn't work, you quickly do, we call it A/B test, ABC, all this testing, and you move to the next kind of experimentation. So you have to do a right balance, and trust me, some luck factor works here. So it's not that you will get everything. Some luck is required, some networking, some kind of right guidance, and some kind of right friend who can help you. That's the only choice, is your best bet. Because I have seen, if everybody got everything, probably a lot of startup would have been successful by now.
Yeah, thank you, Dhitiman.
Thank you once again.
Yeah, Mutan, you just go through onto that.
Okay. So now I would like to request our IIC President, Professor Sandipan Sahu, to say a few words.
Okay. Thank you, Moutan. Thank you. So this is the time for, it is actually this is a great session. Actually, I have also learned a lot of things from Dhitiman. It makes me a little bit clearer knowledge about startup, how to form a startup, how to approach towards building a startup. So a nice session. It is a really entertaining and good session. So, okay, good evening, everyone. It is an honor to express my gratitude to everyone present here at this online event on startup organized by IIC Cell, Bengal Institute of Technology. And that we all know that IIC, that is Institutional Innovational Council, is an initiative by the MHRD. Now it is called Ministry of Education, MOE. And we are associated with this MHRD effort from the very beginning. Finally, I would like to make this opportunity to record our hearty thanks to our respected chief guest, Mr. Dhritiman Ghosh, for attending this event as our keynote speaker and educating us with his view on today's webinar on the topic called exposure and field visit for problem identification. That is a very relevant topic for new and upcoming entrepreneur. Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you for your wonderful session. I
Thank you.
also, okay, thank you, sir. Thank you. I also like to extend my gratitude and thanks to our principal, sir, Professor Dr. M.C. Ghosh, for his continuous support and motivation. Next, I heartily express my thanks to all my dear IIC members who operate extremely hard to organize such an event, especially Professor Sudipto Bhattacharya, Vice President of IIC, Professor Moutan Mukhopadhyay, Startup Activity Coordinator, Professor Shobhan Nondi, Internship Activity Coordinator, Professor Topon Kumar Pal, and obviously Professor Abhishek Bokshi. And finally, I like to thank all the participants for whom the event makes successful. Thank you to all. Over to Moutan.
Thank you, Professor Shahu. Now I would like to request Professor Abhishek Bokshi to share the feedback link in the chat box. And I also would like to request our IIC Vice President, Professor Sudipto Bhattacharya, to share the token of appreciation.
Yeah, it is visible.
Yes.
Yeah, Dhritiman, this is a small certificate of appreciation for your wonderful talk, and in very short period you have just actually in this festive session
Yes,
you
visible.
really we are very thankful to you to just join in this